Good morning. And welcome. My name is Annie Simpson, and I'm the Secretary of UU Reston's Governing Board. Today, I'm your board host, along with my loving husband, Greg Rada, who helped set up the coffee because of my carpal tunnel surgery. Thank you, Greg. We are a very welcoming community, and I want you to know that whether you are here or on Zoom, we are so glad that you're able to join us today. And no matter how old or how young you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, however you identify, and whomever you love, you know you are welcome in this community. I have several announcements. It's a Unitarian church. This is what we do. We announce and we discuss. Please join us after service today. It's Science Sunday. Reverend Aileen will be doing Science Sunday, a talk entitled The History of Science and Religion, Conflict or Collaboration. Second announcement, UU Reston will be holding a newcomer orientation on Saturday, November 2nd at 9:30. Whether you are brand new or newish to Unitarianism and to this community, this is the event to attend if you have any questions about how we work, about our church, or about Unitarianism in general. This particular event will be hosted by Reverend Aileen and the UUCR leaders and collaborators of the community. There will be breakfast, snacks, and lunch, and childcare will be available if requested in advance. For questions or to RSVP, please contact Membership Chair Kathy Delianis. If Kathy's here, please raise your hand. Okay, she's not here today, so. Next announcement, on Sunday, October 30th at 2 p.m., the Interfaith Clergy Group of Reston and Herndon will be hosting a democracy tree planting in Haley Smith Park in Herndon. All are invited to attend. Please see Reverend Aileen for more details. I also wanted to thank everyone who was here last night for the wonderful concert, and I wanted to remind you all that there's still a chance to donate to the music education charity that the concert was benefiting. There's a flyer in the foyer about that, how you can donate, and you could talk to Cynthia. And last, this one is always an announcement. Please submit your announcements for next week's E-Blast to Harry by Tuesday. So now step back in your chair, sit back, and take a deep breath along with me. I'm not good at this, let me try. So we are entering our time of worship together as we enjoy this morning's prelude.
Each day is holy when your heart Good morning and welcome. I'm Reverend Aileen Fitzke, and it is my honor to serve this congregation as its minister. Our opening words this morning, "The Whisper of Our Souls," is by the Reverend Scott Taylor. Come, let us listen with new ears. Do you hear it? That voice, so familiar, yet still far. Less a longing and more a knowing. A whisper of something inside that seems to have known us longer than we have known it. Come, let us listen together.
Our opening hymn today is number 90, "From All the Fret and Fever of the Day." Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing.
Good morning. I'm Leslie Tyson, your worship associate for today, and I have these chalice lighting words. It's called The Echo of Inner Vision. It's from the Soul Matters team. We light this chalice to remember the light within, to know that the hunger we feel inside is an echo of inner wisdom that wants something more for us, for others, for this weary yet wonderful world.
Here at UUCR, we have a beloved tradition of singing together our covenant every Sunday. Love is the spirit of this church. So we invite you to remain seated as we sing our covenant together. And if you are here today for the first time, we invite you to accept this song as our blessing to you.
Good morning. Now now is the time for all ages. So if we have anyone who would like to come forward, you may do so now. We have room on the floor, and we actually have some seats up front available. So welcome, welcome. Our story today is from Muhammad Hassan's library YouTube channel. I've also seen it as a Mullah Nasruddin story and as a Jewish folktale. But it's a great story wherever it may come from. Once there was a fruit seller who took her fruits to the market every week. One day, she decided she wanted more customers and she was going to create a sign. So she did that. And on the sign she wrote, "Fresh fruits sold here." She went to market that week proud of her cart and her fruits and of her brand new sign. Things went really well for a while until a man came up, looked at the cart, the fruits, the sign, and the fruit seller, and said, "You've been coming to this market for a long time, and we know your fruits are fresh, and we can tell from looking at them also. It's ridiculous to have that word fresh on the sign. You should get rid of it." So after the man left, the fruit seller painted out the word fresh, and her sign now said, "Fruits sold here." Before long, an old woman came by and looked at the cart and the sign and said, "It's obvious you're selling fruits. We can see that just by looking. You need to get rid of that word. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever." So what do you think the fruit seller did? She painted out the word fruits. So her sign now read, "Sold here." Okay, fruit sellers thought that might be okay. But then an old man came, looked at the cart, looked at the woman, and said, "You're at a market. Of course you're selling something. You're not giving something away or bringing it here just to show people. Of course you're selling. So get rid of that word sold." So yes, that's right. The woman painted out this word sold. So this is what the sign said. A young boy came along and looked at the sign and slowly sounded out the word "here." And he looked confused, and then he said to the woman, "It's obvious you're here. You're not there, you're here. Why do you have a sign that says here? That's a ridiculous word to have on a sign when you're obviously here." So the woman painted out the word "here." And now she had a blank sign. It was a shiny, brand new sign. So she was happy about that. But before long, a young woman came by, looked at the sign, looked at the cart and the woman, and said, "You have a pretty shiny sign there, but it's blank. You should use it to sell your fruits. You could advertise a special deal, or maybe you could say, 'Fresh fruits sold here.'" Many of us have probably experienced people wanting to tell us how to do things, saying there's a better way, something else that we should do. If we listen to everything that people tell us without thinking, we will end up like the blank sign that anyone can write on. So today, we are talking about why it's important to listen to our own wisdom. In addition to listening to what others say, we need to think and also see what our wisdom tells us. Some people call that inner wisdom their gut, their intuition, their heart, their conscience, or maybe even God. So I wonder what we can do to listen more often and trust more often what our inner wisdom tells us. And we'll be talking more about that today. Now let us sing the children out with Go With Joy. The lyrics will be projected here.
Now is the time in our service when we share our joys and concerns, so that no one ever has to hold them alone. If you are joining us remotely this morning, you may wish to light a real or virtual candle wherever you are to mark what is in your heart as members of the in-person congregation place stones in the water here in the sanctuary. If those of you at home would like to share what is in your heart in the congregational chat on the screen, please write to all attendees, and please remember that what you share will be public. Those at home may then read others' joys and concerns shared in the chat and enter into their own time of reflection and prayer, as we in the sanctuary now come forward and place our stones in the water. Let us be one in prayer and meditation. Spirit of life and love that so faithfully animates our creation, we are grateful for this community that is with us in time of both joy and sorrow. We hold in our hearts this morning all who are facing any hardship or difficulty, those who are grieving or facing illness or disability in themselves, their friends, or their loved ones. In particular this morning, I want to hold Katie and Nicole, Charlie and Will, joy on your journey, and we hope you come back. For them, we light this candle. Let us take a moment of silence.
The second Sunday of each month is our dedicated offering to an organization chosen by the Social Justice and Action Committee. All of today's offering, except for pledge payments, which should be clearly marked, will go to Shelter House. Shelter House is a community-based, nonprofit organization serving families experiencing homelessness and victims of domestic violence in Fairfax and Loudoun counties. It was formed in 1981 when several ecumenical groups came together to better serve Fairfax County's low-income population. In 1985, Shelter House's facility was moved to its current location in Falls Church. In 2007, Shelter House was awarded Fairfax County's contract to operate the Catherine K. Hanley Family Shelter in Fairfax. In 2010, Shelter House became the first nonprofit to operate Artemis House, Fairfax County's only 24-hour domestic violence shelter. They recently merged with Family Pass, which you may have heard of, so that they can now also provide long-term case management for those at risk of homelessness. You may make your donation at the link in the chat and on your order of service, entering your donation into the Charity of the Month donation box in the online form. You can also write a check to UUCR with Shelter House in the memo line and put it in the offering basket or mail it to the church. And of course, you may put cash in the offering basket. Thank you for your generous support of this important community resource.
My hands are wide open.
Several years ago, I was helping a friend with the final draft of her master's thesis. In return, because she could not pay me and wanted to, she said she would do a reading for me. I asked her what that meant, and she said she had developed a way through guided meditation to help people access their deepest selves. She did it for people who were experiencing life transitions so that they could discern their next steps. I said fine, because I was indeed in a position in which I was in a life transition. She led me into a deep meditative state, and if I remember correctly, she asked me leading questions while I was in this state. When it was over, she asked me what was the clearest message that I had received while I was in the meditative state. And I looked at her and I said, the strongest message I got, which I didn't understand, was that I was going to move. At that point in my life, I had no intention of moving. I was happy where I was living. Heck, Carl and I were planning on buying plots in the local green cemetery, so I thought perhaps moving was a metaphor for spiritual journey. About a year later, I was facilitating the coming of age program at my church, and one of the other facilitators asked me, "What are you going to do after your son Joe graduates from high school next year?" And I blurted out, "I want to go to Harvard Divinity School." Now, I had not thought about that as a possibility for years, and there it was, popping out of my mouth. And I ignored it. And then about 6 months later, sitting in a waiting room, right in front of me was the Harvard Divinity School magazine. Sometimes the still small voice needs to practically shout at you to be heard. I was talking to a friend recently, and she was telling me about how she was stuck because the plan she had for her life felt like it was no longer viable, that she had to consider perhaps to make a plan B. And then she had a dream that suggested the same thing, that reinforced her own waking feelings that maybe her life plan had to change. That still small voice, that voice that tells us it is time to change, comes in many different guises. The Jungian analyst Helen Luke wrote, "The moment we awaken to know that we are lost, to realize, as Jung said, that the ego is not the master in the house, then we have begun the journey." In our busy and cluttered lives, we do not often stop. Just stop and listen. Allow ourselves time for silence. The 16th century mystic John of the Cross said, "Silence is God's first language." And through centuries, the religious traditions have taught us that we have the tools to practice this stillness. For the Christian mystics, and particularly the Catholic contemplatives, they had, and indeed still have, the hours, those 7 sacred pauses throughout the day in which they stop and pray. We do not have to follow the hours as strictly as the monastics, but we have the possibility to pause every day and listen for those moments of internal wisdom. The spiritual writer Maria Whitaker writes, "The mystical possibilities of every moment are revealed to us in our intentional pauses." There are different kinds of silences. There is the outer silence of stopping the external noise, and then there is the internal silence of stopping the chatter of our minds. My friend told me of a silent retreat that she had taken. In the silent retreat, they could not speak to each other. They had to put away their phones, and they could not read. And I said, "What? You can't have books?" But I understand that. Even reading adds to our internal clutter. How can you access that still small voice, which, let's be honest, is the point of a completely silent retreat, if the voices of others are still intruding? Once we allow ourselves this silence of external and internal noise, what next? In many religious traditions, there are techniques to access the deepest part of ourselves. In Christian centering prayer, a form of meditation, is a practice intended to bring us to the central part of our being, as Trappist monk and mystic Thomas Merton described. At the center of our being is a point of nothingness, which is untouched by sin and illusion, a point of pure truth, a point or spark that belongs entirely to God. It is in everybody, and if we could see it, we would see these billions of points of light coming together, ablaze like the sun, that would make all the darkness and cruelty of life vanish completely. And in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, a set of texts which describe the practice in which, in the yogic tradition, one might attain the highest form of concentration in meditation, the Yoga Sutras say, "In the removal of those veils of imperfection, there comes the experience of the infinite, and the realization that there is almost nothing to be known. There comes liberation, wherein the power of pure consciousness becomes established in its true nature." Now, most of us will never reach these states of meditation through which we experience the liberation of all thought, but we can practice stillness. We can practice meditative techniques that allow us to slow our minds at least just a little, even if it's just for a few minutes every day. This is very difficult for those of us who do not live in monasteries like the Trappist monks or the yogic gurus. The distractions that make up our days is almost infinite. Even for me, who has as one of my goals to engage in regular meditative practice, I rarely accomplish it. Something always pulls me in another direction. I never seem to find the time to do it. I think because exploring our deepest being is scary. We keep up the distractions because what might lie inside might be too painful to confront. A couple years ago, I took a class on somatic healing. Somatic healing helps us understand how traumatic events are held in our bodies. Even though we may move beyond a traumatic event, the memory of that event is held not just in our minds, but also in our bodies. And if we do not unlearn our bodily reactions, they may remain hidden, and we are forced to confront them, mostly when we are ill-prepared to do so. The responses to fear most of us know are fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Fight, flight, and freeze I knew about, but fawn was new to me. It means to appease the aggressor so they will not hurt you. What happens is that when we hold these responses in our body, even in non-life-threatening situations, we resort to one of these responses, and we often don't know why. While talk therapy might help us uncover the reason for our fear, Somatic therapy helps people through teaching movement exercises to unlearn bodily movements or inability to move that the fear response often elicits, and also teaches us to relearn when the fear responses are appropriate. When we learn about how our bodies react, we can in turn teach them to react differently. In her book, Deep Listening, healing practitioner Jillian Pransky teaches how to calm all aspects of the self, body, self, mind, heart. She writes, "Deep listening is the habit of paying close and tender attention to our body, our mind, our heart, so that we can meet stress differently. This type of attention provides us with more resources and a greater capacity, physically, mentally, emotionally, and relationally, to respond calmly, clearly, and wisely, and also engage more fully in the expansiveness that is our life." The French writer André Gide said, "If you go deeply enough into the personal, you reach the universal." Listening to ourselves, we learn about the deepest need of our own emotional, spiritual, and physical selves. And in understanding ourselves, we begin to understand others as well. We cannot separate our own suffering and pain from the suffering and pain of others. And so we learn empathy. We learn how to be with others, how to listen to them, how to heal with them. To listen to that still small voice is hard, especially when what it says pushes us out of our comfort zones, lets us know that it is time to change, to try something new, to disrupt the status quo. And we have to discern for ourselves what is true for us at any given time. May we listen deeply, hear beyond words and thoughts, to that jewel in the center that holds eternal wisdom, and be free. Amen, and blessed be.
Our closing hymn today is hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. So please rise and embody your spirit and join us.
Our benediction this morning is by the Reverend Leslie Takahashi. Walk the maze within your heart. Guide your steps into its questioning curves. This labyrinth is a puzzle leading you deeper into your own truths. Listen in the twists and turns. Listen in the openness within all searching. Listen, a wisdom within you calls to a wisdom beyond you, and in that dialogue lies peace.
We now extinguish this chalice. Although the chalice is extinguished, its light lives on in the minds and hearts and souls of each one of you. Carry that flame with you as you leave this place and share it with those you know, with those you love, and most especially with those you have yet to meet.
For the postlude, the choir is going to sing the song Listening again, but this time we're going to stand behind you in the back of the sanctuary, and we invite you just to enjoy the experience of listening to that, and we're going to have a few moments of just quiet together when that is done, and I'll come forward and close the service out after that.